So we've had exotics get buffed, reworks, but nothing on the scale that Aeon Gauntlets recently got reworked. And I'm here to tell you something that I think you never thought you would hear, and that's Aeon Gauntlets are actually kind of meta. I know, sounds like I'm smoking something, but I'm serious. They're good, and they're gonna become a must-have exotic for you and your fire team. Now, first up, previously, Aeon Gauntlets were pretty straightforward. These are gauntlets that are available for all three classes: Warlocks, Titans, and Hunters. Now, previously, the benefit was really tied to the class abilities. So if you're on Hunter and you dodge, Warlocks got their grenades back, Titans got their melee back, and Hunters got their dodge back. That is, of course, if your fire team members are also wearing these Aeon Gauntlets. And by the way, before we go any further, and I know somebody's gonna say it, Cross, you're saying it wrong. It's Aeon. It's Aeon. Whatever. It's not that I don't believe you. It's because I got a mental block when it comes to pronunciation. Sometimes I call it Aeon. Sometimes I call it Ion. It's a good chance both of those are wrong. Regardless though, pre 3.1.0, that was the simplified Aeon Gauntlets. Now, Ions have returned to us, reworked, actually specifically stated from the sandbox patch notes for 3.1.0, Ion Coat's arms exotic armor pieces for all three classes have been redesigned and now feature selectable role-based perks oriented toward teamwork. Now, this is interesting. This is something that has not been done with any other exotic armor pieces, but Aeon Gauntlets essentially are like three exotics in one that has an Aeon exotic cult mod slot, which are interchangeable, by the way. These mods include the Sect of Force, the Sect of Insight, and the Sect of Vigor. Now, it's kind of cool because when you actually slot one of these mods, it changes the color of your actual exotic armor. Look at this. Sect of Force is red, Sect of Insight is blue, and Sect of Vigor is green. Absolutely epic. I know it's a small thing, but the fact that it actually changes depending on which mod you have equipped really gives these exotics their own unique identity. Now let's go through each one of these mods, and yes, we tested all of these. First up, Sect of Force. It actually states you specialize in punishing powerful combatants before they can harm your allies. Now, you'll notice that there's like two sets of benefits. There's a primary benefit and a secondary benefit, if you want to call it that. The primary benefit states that rapid precision hits with a weapon temporarily boosts your reload speed and weapon swap speed. Now, it's not like outlaw levels of crazy in regards to reload speed. Think of it more as like Chain of Woe from Top Tree Gunslinger. Very similar in its benefits, but you also get the increase there in swap speed. Now, the secondary benefit states that when you stun a champion or defeat a boss or mini boss, your nearby fire team members gain a burst of grenade and melee energy. Also, Aeon Coat's allies who do not have the Sect of Force role equipped also gain a burst of super energy. Now, this is actually a really nice bump there, and all of your abilities, including your super. And you notice that it wants not only your teammates to rock these exotics, but also to rock a separate mod. It wants you to taste the rainbow, so to speak, when it comes to diversifying your mod loadout. Now, ability-wise, upon stunning a champion or defeating a boss or a mini-boss, which is essentially champions, this results in you getting back instantly half your grenade or nearly half your grenade and half your melee, on top of a good chunk there of your super. And yes, for those that are wondering if this stacks possibly with things like Resonant Siphon, which states that you gain stasis ability energy when you or a member of your fire team stuns a champion, yes, it does. Meaning, with every stun, you can pretty much always get your stasis ability back if you're rocking a stasis subclass, as both of these do stack together. So depending on what subclass you're rocking or what you're using, for example, if you are taking advantage of stasis neutral game abilities over and over again, you do not want to be the one to equip Sect of Force. You want someone else to equip that, and instead rock Aeon Gauntlets with one of these other mods to take advantage of when your teammate stuns a champion or defeats a boss or a mini boss. Which takes us to the second mod, Sect of Insight. You specialize in empowering your allies and keeping them well supplied. Now, the primary benefit, successive precision weapon takedowns have a chance to drop an orb of power for your allies. This is the mod that really just benefits only your teammates, as a secondary benefit states that when you use a finisher on an elite, you generate special ammo for your fire team. And when you use a finisher on a boss or a mini boss, you generate heavy ammo for your entire fire team. Now, not for yourself, but for your fire team. You remember that mod last season on the artifact called Spoils of War, which allowed you to spawn heavy ammo when you would finish off champions? This is essentially the same exact thing, but it never goes away. It's on these exotics. But to sweeten this mod up even more, Nearby Ion Cult allies who do not have Sect of Insight role equipped will gain a bonus to weapon damage for a short time. Now, after finishing a champion, your allies will get a buff for 20 seconds at 35% increase in damage. Essentially weapons of light, which is kind of nuts. The downside is it doesn't stack with anything. It stacks with debuffs, but does not necessarily stack with buffs, which is exactly how things work in this game. Again, one buff and a debuff can be applied to a target. Buffs do not stack anymore and debuffs do not stack anymore. I know that was a big change a long time ago, but I did try with things like Lumina, Well of Radiance, Charge with Light. None of those things would stack with Sect of Insight, but regardless, whether or not you're able to take advantage of that weapon bonus damage or not, just finishing off champions and spawning heavy ammo for your fire team is huge and well worth this exotic mod. Matter of fact, even when we were running Nightfalls, my teammates were not rocking Aeon Gauntlets. They were still rocking their regular loadouts. I was the only one rocking these Aeon Swifts with Sect of Insight, and I would just run around finishing champions off, spawning heavy ammo for them, as they don't need to have Aeon Gauntlets on in order to get heavy ammo. It's only that damage buff on the end there that requires them to have these Aeon Gauntlets on. Now, pro tip, and this was something that was complained about Spoils of War last season. A lot of people say they are inconsistent and did not spawn heavy ammo upon finishing off champions. What's actually happening, and especially when you place like anarchy shots on an enemy, the enemy will actually die before your finisher animation is complete. Therefore, if you have a finisher animation, which takes forever, like silencing shot here, which is a cool animation, but a lot of times your enemy will already be dead before you can actually finish them off. So find you an animation that performs very fast. Sure Shot is actually, I think, the fastest finisher. Like straight up pay to win right here, fellas. It's just kablammy, boom, you got the kill, insta spawning of heavy ammo, which takes us to our third mod, Sect of Vigor. You specialize in keeping your allies in the fight. Gain class ability energy as your allies die. Gain full class ability energy when you resurrect an ally. That is the primary benefit. Secondary benefit, when you cast your super, nearby allies gain an instant burst of healing. Aeon Cult allies who do not have the Sect of Vigor role also gain an overshield. Now, I know this one doesn't seem like it really benefits you all that much, but take this week's Nightfall ordeal. One of the modifiers is attrition, which is hell. Essentially, your regeneration is impaired and it requires you to pick up those wells of light upon defeating enemies. Long story short, this mod allows you to bypass that when casting your super, healing your teammates, and if you have things that are feeding back into your intellect, that are feeding back into your super, this will allow you to take advantage of that mod more often. Now, again, when it comes to light-based subclasses, they kind of have their designated exotics. Take, for instance, Well of Radiance. The obvious go-to choice for Well is Phoenix Protocol. Take Chaos Reach, for instance. The obvious go-to choice for Chaos Reach is Geomax. Where Aeon Gauntlets come in now, though, is they really work well for classes that are kind of missing that extra piece, or that are not necessarily reliant on an exotic to complete it. Aeon Gauntlets kind of fill that void, and of course, it really benefits you when the entire fire team is rocking these gauntlets. Now, I will say you do not have to rock these gauntlets for your entire fire team. Today, I was rocking Sect of Insight. I was taking advantage of bottom tree tether, going invisible, pushing up on enemies, applying tractor cannon to champions, finishing them off, and spawning heavy ammo for my teammates. They were never running out of heavy. Again, think of Spoils of War, same concept here, but tied to an exotic armor. And I would say that benefit alone, though, makes this exotic top tier. But playing more and more with these exotics, especially with fire teams, and really trying to dip into the identities, the roles that these mods are trying to push us into, I really want to try more things with these exotics. I do think that Stasis will probably benefit the most from these exotic gauntlets, simply because you have things like fragments and aspects. For my players that are rocking max intellect, pairing it with Sect of Vigor can simultaneously rock things like Whisper of Bonds and maybe a weapon with Thresh to constantly give themselves back a super. And again, all other content, probably not that big of a deal. Healing your teammates, giving them overshields. But when we start having things like attrition, where health is important, where it is hell, staying alive, mods like these can make all the difference. The neutral game abilities that you can supply here with Sect of Force to your teammates, I can't express how good this mod is. And I even noticed my own fire team earlier kind of like giving up on some of these other mods because they didn't want to take off exotics that they've been used to. Geomax, Phoenix Protocol. Like I mentioned yesterday, Ursa Furiosa. All day long. If you just want to get through the content, sure, just rock Ursa. Block your way to victory. But I like things to get interesting. I like to see synergy. And Aeon Gauntlets and the upgrade that they've received in this new sandbox really has improved these exotics to a level that I never thought would be possible. Again, these exotics were a meme for such a long time. I had lots of success today in doing what my role was, which was essentially in empowering my allies by spawning them a ton of heavy ammo. And I pretty much relied on mods like Reactive Pulse, which allows me to gain an overshield when performing a finisher, and Empowering Finish, which essentially always gave me Charge with Light with every finish. This kept me alive, and I would use invisibility to get in and out of situations. But even seeing this benefit today, I feel like I'm only experiencing a very small piece of what these exotics have to offer. If you have a fire team that's going to dedicate to speccing themselves out accordingly to fit into these roles, these exotics are going to be absolutely disgusting. And again, we're speaking from the perspective of a 3-man fire team. This gets only better with a 6-man fire team. So keep that in mind, guys. I know we're kind of set in our way in what we bring into like PvE in-game, but Aeon Gauntlets, absolutely nasty. And even though I think a lot of people are probably just going to rely on Sect of Insight for that spawning of heavy ammo, I would really urge you to look past that, to try rocking this with your entire fire team. And I do believe if done correctly, you will always have abilities, heavy ammo, damage buffs, and survivability, all that tied to a single exotic. So guys, that is my review for Aeons. These things came out, what, 3 years ago? Was it 3 years ago? 4 years ago? Jesus Christ. Time, man. These exotics were garbage. I mean, absolutely garbage. I think a lot of us were just like, Bungie, get rid of them. And somebody at Bungie took it personally. And I gotta tell you guys, I love what they've done with these exotics, and I hope to see more reworks similar to this one in the future. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.